Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. Well, the latest news in Canada is now that we are under a National Emergencies Act. It's kind of the closest thing to a War Measures Act that you can get. First time it's been used, apparently. And it was done by Trudeau because he is not willing to talk to protesters at all. He is not willing to discuss with them what they would like to see. He is not willing to back down. I think this is personal for him. I think his ego and he himself is just getting in the way. He feels like he has no way to save face, so he's just being a bully now to give police apparently the resources to move everybody out of the way when he could have resolved this 2 weeks ago. This is a big deal. And even the Civil Liberties Association in Canada is condemning Trudeau, and many leaders are condemning Trudeau. The official opposition is condemning Trudeau. There's no need to invoke this act. There's no danger to the country of Canada for this. All he needs to do, and he could have done it 3 weeks ago, is talk to the truckers and come to some agreement. There was even a vote passed or pushed by the official opposition, not to end the mandates, but to simply provide an outline or a timeline for the ending of mandates in the country. And so it wasn't getting rid of mandates. It wasn't forcing the government to do something other than create a schedule, create a calendar, give us a timeline for when these mandates might end. And they voted that down in the Commons. The NDP voted along with the Liberals. I think because Trudeau's doing everything. He doesn't want to backtrack on anything. He wants to. He's effectively being a tyrant. So the Canadian Civil Liberties Association condemned Trudeau for invoking the Emergencies Act, claiming on a Monday tweet, that the Canadian federal government has not met the threshold necessary to do so. The Emergency Act can only be invoked when a situation seriously threatens the ability of the government of Canada to preserve the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada, and when the situation cannot be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada. So the lawyers, see this. The civil liberty folks recognize this as something bad, and it's unprecedented. This means that this is a precedent. Governments can now pull this out of their back pocket if they disagree with something. And several provinces, including Alberta and Manitoba, have come and said, we don't need this act. We don't need the extra powers provided by this act, and we disagree with this. The whole opposition party disagrees with this. And it's an incredible thing. That's one of the opposition people, Pierre Poilievre, coming out and speaking against this situation. So it's a very scary, sketchy precedent in a free and democratic society. But we're moving towards a global government, and you know it to be the case. We're moving towards a situation where all citizens of the world join a global government led by a world leader. And you talk about Klaus Schwab and all these, a school for training young world leaders, and they're all moving towards this globalism. This is not a secret anymore. You can go watch the videos. Watch John Haller. He has videos of Klaus Schwab and all this. This is not tin hat conspiracy stuff anymore. This has actually happened before our eyes. And I always wondered, how does a country go from free to lockdown and tyranny and dictatorship? Well, this is one example. They've used the truckers as an excuse, a peaceful protest in Ottawa. And although the blockades were illegal, and the police had already dealt with the major blockade by the Ambassador Bridge, they already dealt with it. But this Emergencies Act is coming into effect regardless, and they want to clear out everybody in Ottawa, which is going to limit, again, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, although Trudeau says it doesn't. They're going to crack down on the peaceful protests, although Trudeau came out and said, this is not to crack down on peaceful protests, but it gives them incredible powers to do whatever they need. to even arrest people without charge for a period under the guise of some great countrywide emergency. And it's a scary situation if politicians don't stand up and do absolutely everything they can to get rid of this. And people on the left, they think it's great. They love it. And it's just an incredible situation. Meanwhile, this thing, compared to or similar to the War Act, kind of to lock down citizens when needed and to declare martial law, almost, is happening at a time when the Russian invasion is about to occur, according to the CIA and U.S. authorities. This is Debka file. Russia's Ukraine invasion is ready to go. Military has 1 month supplies. Kiev draws a plan for 3 million evacuees. So under this and under the trucker protests, you can see the reason that they're going to push for a world government and for all of us to come together under a world government and a world economy. It's going to be a world leader step up and say, I'm going to save you from all this. In a last-ditch effort, shuttle diplomatic bid, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visits Kiev Monday, February 12th, and Moscow on Tuesday. His talks with Vladimir Putin will be followed by another meeting in Kiev with Zelensky, the Ukraine president. The odds on the Scholz mission success are low after U.S. attempt at diplomacy ran aground. Moscow stands by its demands of September 17th for U.S. security guarantees that Ukraine will not join NATO and Western alliance will halt its expansion into Eastern Europe. The faint ray of hope appearing on Saturday when the Ukraine ambassador to the UK, Postayko, told the BBC that his government was willing to be flexible over joining NATO was angrily and swiftly refuted by President Zelensky. Russian army has, meanwhile, completed its deployment along Ukraine's land and sea borders. The 130,000 to 150,000 troops in place have received supplies for a month with medical support. So they're not just faking; they're getting ready for a potential conflict. Putin does not appear to be deterred by Joe Biden's repeated threat of sanctions. And I was watching a U.S. Commentator about this, and Joe Biden has no backing behind him. He has no trust in him. He doesn't look like a strong president. So there's no kind of bulk or mass behind him threatening Russia with any retaliation because he hasn't shown that he is a strong leader. Russia's ambassador to Sweden put it this way: excuse my language, but we don't give a S-T about all the sanctions. Putin feels he can afford this show of nonchalance owing to his long preparations, and he is working with China as well, so that if there are sanctions, he can weather it. And where do most products come from? They come from China. So are they going to have trouble shipping any products? No, because China's on their side. Ukraine's president and military chiefs are presenting a facade of skepticism over any possible Russian invasion. This has been reflected in the upbeat mood on the streets of Kiev. However, Monday, Mayor Vitalo Klitschko introduced a jarring note with an announcement that he had a plan ready to evacuate 3 million city dwellers. So their emergency folks and experts are coming up with a plan to evacuate 3 million people in the city should this happen. And this is according to the CIA. And this was shared with all the NATO nations and G7 members, etc. Israel seems to believe it because they evacuated their citizens. This is happening on Wednesday, according to that. He was clearly impressed by the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan's estimate on Friday that the Russian army would push into Ukraine from Belarus and cover 200 kilometers up to seize in Kiev within 72 hours. So this is a security and intelligence website, debkafile.com, reporting this. And so I trust that it's good information. Again, the world is going to go to full global government dictatorship. This is coming. The Bible said it was coming. we don't know how we were going to get there. The Bible doesn't tell us how we got there. But if you look at the situation, the Canada is now effectively under dictatorship by these Emergency Act. I don't know what else you'd call it. If nothing else, it's one step towards that. It's a very scary situation for a democracy. What's worse is that nearly half of Canadians are on board with this taking of power and control. Meanwhile, all they had to do was give. In fact, they didn't have to give the police anything. The police were already dealing with the illegal blockades, so they didn't need any more emergency powers. And Alberta said as much. Alberta has a blockade right now, and they said this is too far. We don't need this. We have resources, and our police are doing what they need to do. And so Alberta, the Premier of Alberta, came out and said this Emergencies Act is not necessary. So the leaders across the country are saying that the Prime Minister is doing something that should not be occurring. But they don't have any power. It's a federal government thing. It's Canada-wide. So if the federal government wants to do it, and we elected them, the citizens of this country, by a small minority government, and the NDP is backing them up in the small minority government, then they can currently do what they want. Now, I think this hammers a few nails into the coffin of Trudeau as Prime Minister, and I don't know what his legacy is going to be after this, but this was uncalled for and necessary, and the Civil Liberties Union said as much. Although Trudeau came out and said, you know what, this will not affect our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but it's happening. It is affecting the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for peaceful protest. So we'll see how this plays out. But again, how does the world get to global government? Well, I think there's got to be chaos, civil unrest, social and societal collapse. You see, there in the top middle here. There. So I think that's coming before the Antichrist, before a world leader rises. And what do we see happening in Canada? It's absolutely happening. And I think that's going to start happening around the world if it hasn't already. Governments are consolidating power. We're watching this in real time, people. This is happening. We don't know. I don't know if it's going to end. I don't think it's going to end. I think we're in those last days just prior to the 7-year period. So we'll continue to watch it. If war breaks out, look out. That could be the instigation and the precedent, the thing that happens prior to the revealing of the world government. And a great excuse for a world leader to come and say, look, I can resolve all the world issues. I can make everything awesome again. All you need to do is declare allegiance to me. And all the countries of the world apparently will get on board and become part of the world community. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be praying for Canada. Pray for the leadership. Pray for the peace of the country, the wisdom of the leaders. The leaders are off the rails at this point, and I hope the opposition politicians can do something, but I don't know. I think their hands are tied. I don't know how much power they have at this point to really push against this outside of complete, civil unrest by the population. And I think the population has no idea what's happening. They just want to live fat, dumb, and happy. They don't care. They just want the police to deal with it, and they just want to have their coffees in the morning and their croissants, and they don't want to deal with any sort of trouble. But sometimes that's the cost of democracy. Some protests are not supposed to be comfortable things. Thanks for watching. I'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.